Hello there, guys. Back again. And now that we're getting a little closer to launch, I'm going to be able to start fleshing out in a bit more detail some of the main features that we've already talked about. And now I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the Livepitch feature, which has been mentioned several times, and for me, very exciting. It's one of the massive kind of jumps forward that we've made in this game. So the basis of this is, for me, sport is all about the story. It's all about the stories that get made. There are loads of things that go into making that. Obviously, like the primary thing is the action on the pitch, the score, the result. But then there's a whole bunch of other stuff around it that makes it really, really memorable. For example, when I think back to the 2005 Ashes series, obviously as an Englishman, I remember that series being absolutely brilliant. That almost every test had like massive defining moments and achievements. All of the results of the tests were incredibly tight, and for me at least, the results were a good one. Sorry Aussie. But also key in my memories of that series was that the entire thing was like, it was bathed in like sunshine. The atmosphere in the grounds was like incredible, really electric, and that kind of all adds to the memory. That's all kind of attached to, not only did we win the series, and I remember that, but I also kind of get a feeling in my memory of like what it was like. So one of our key goals when we were setting out to make this game is, what we really wanted to get was the sense that every match was a totally separate event, and should feel like there's kind of a new story being written with each match. They should all feel, sound, smell a little bit different. Okay, so it probably won't smell different. The technology for that doesn't exist yet. Maybe in the future. So we've got groups of stadiums all over the world, each of which has its own characteristics. They're kind of clustered so that you can set up a series or a tournament and play at random grounds in that area, or just one-off matches at any particular ground you fancy. The match conditions will behave much like real life. So in India, you'll get bounce early on in the game. Later on, it will deteriorate and turn into more of a spinner's wicket most of the time. In England, greener pitches, cloud cover, making swing bowling more important. And this is all stuff that you'd expect in the cricket game, and stuff that we've partially seen in other titles. But it's a totally new way of doing it this time, and really affects how you have to play the game, taking those conditions into account if you're going to succeed, taking it to a much higher level of detail. So just a few examples. The pitch will degrade a lot more quickly usually if there's been some rain on it. So if you've had a rain delay and some of the rain has got into the pitch, then that'll mean that the pitch then degrades quicker for the rest of the match. Players tire much more quickly in like hot and humid conditions, and the weather in the game is actually based on geographical data, real life geographical data, and that will change depending on the time of day. So night matches in the subcontinent are much more bearable than batting in the day, where you've got kind of hot sun. And then on top of that, another thing that we've really raised the bar on this year is with the regional variations and the changes according to the situation. So depending on what format of the game you're playing, you'll get different atmospheres in the ground. So tests tend to be kind of quieter and more reserved, whilst 2020 games are really boisterous, much louder crowds, and stuff like music, for boundaries, and as you'd expect from real life. But because of the different regions as well, there's an extra layer on top. So in a T20 game, not only do you get music, for example, when a boundary's scored, depending on where you're playing, you'll get different music. So in the West Indies, you'll get steel drum music, or calypso sounding music. Australia used a lot of rock music. I'm not massively knowledgeable about Indian music, I have to admit, but what is in the game in the Indian grounds sounds like what I've heard in Indian grounds in real life. If somebody wants to let me know the name of that, the specific name of that, then please do. I don't know if you can call it Bollywood music. In my mind, that's what it is, but that's probably very culturally naive. There's probably a more specific name. I'll only embarrass myself if I try and guess. It's probably down to my cultural upbringing and probably partly my age as well, because I've reached the age where all new music sounds the same to me, i.e. it's not as good as it was back in my day. So yeah, that's kind of a little bit more detail on what the Livepitch brings, and I said the atmosphere in the grounds really makes a big difference for me. If you've got any questions about anything I've mentioned there, please don't hesitate to jump into our forums via www.ashescricket2013.com, and in there you'll also find the links to our Twitter and Facebook pages. I'll be doing more of these as we go. Please do request any particular thing that you want me to talk about, and I shall speak to you again soon. Thanks.